All right, we're going to continue here with chapter 13 of featured book Cleopatra's Riches. And let me bring up a slides here and we'll shoot it. Great. So that's our featured book. We're back with Cleopatra's Riches. And like I said, the next book is going to be Bethany Frankel. She does have a study guide that goes with the book. So if you can get the book and a study guide, that'll be good. It'd be good to have us lead us through the book so we can get the maximum benefit from reading the book. I do have the book, and I've ordered my study guide. So that's what we're going to use to read through the book. So you can get yourself a copy and get a copy of the study guide. That'll be good. We'll all be able to have the maximum benefit of doing this. All right, so let's go in with our present book here. Again, Meta Adams has that webpage we can go to and get maximum benefit from reading a book. So we're on to chapter 13. Chapter 13 is talking about relationship, and as we've done, we're going to have 3 more chapters on relationships. So the next 3 chapters will be focused on relationship. Well, next week we're going to talk about how relationship affects our earning money. Following that, we'll talk about how relationship affects our growing money. And lastly, we'll talk about how relationship affects our earning money, our enjoying money. Then we'll go on to the last bit of the book, which will be talking about emotions, how emotions affect our earning money, how emotions affect our growing money, and how emotions affect our enjoying money, right? So that's what we have in front of us to take care of. And so today we're eating on relationships, right? And we would typically say relationship as life's bottom line. So relationship is money's bottom line, right? We make money by relationship. We grow money by relationship. We enjoy money by relationship. Take relationship out of it and we will be handicapped, right? We're here. We're created as relating beings. We're relating beings. When we don't relate and we are to ourselves, we get into a place of depression. We're depressed. We're not living to the fullness of who we're created to live, right? We're created to express ourselves. Like I would typically say, learning from Peter Drucker, everything that takes place on the inside of each one of us, an organism is for the purpose intent of affecting our environment, right? Our essence is not found inside of us. Our essence is found in whatsoever takes place inside here affects positively our environment, the people around us, right? That's the essence of life. Our essence is not found inside of us, it's found in the way we affect positively our environment, right? So, and that has a bearing on our being financially empowered to the extent to which we can do this, right? Effectively, efficiently is the extent to which we can be financially empowered, right? Efficiently is about we gaining momentum, gaining speed. Effectiveness is about us, knowing what to focus our energy on, right? And so Matthew gives us this poetry or this poem that relates to that, talking about how we relate with other people. For me, I just simply see it from Stephen Covey's I believe that's Stephen Covey's 5th habit, right? Which says that we should seek to understand before we are understood, right? We should seek to understand before we are understood. The way to conquer in life is that we seek first to understand before we seek to be understood, right? Because if we don't do that, then we'll be reflecting ourselves on other people, right? And therefore there'll be a break in communication, right? If we understand them, then we're able to relate with people who are right. right? Rather than reflecting our own shortcomings on them, right? So, and that's pretty much what Stephen Covey says in the fifth habit, I believe, which is having a frame of mind or heart that empathically listen to others first before seeking to be understood. In every human interactions, we understand the person we're trying to communicate with so that we can truly communicate rather than throwing ourself or overwhelming that person, right? So, and that bears on relationship, because if we're able to relate with people the way they want to be related with, then we can get the maximum benefit of that relationship, right? And just to go further, right? Money plays a role in every relationship, right? Money is a means of transaction. Money is a means of relating, right? Irrespective of what our relationship is with our members of our families, our friends, our colleagues, and with marital relationship also, or casual acquaintances, right? Uh, money is something that gets to have its place in every relationship, whether it be in the church, club, social gathering. We all need money to be able to move things, right? So money has a place of coming up in all of this, and our ability to be able to use money rather than allowing money to use us will determine our financial health, our financial freedom, our financial empowerment, our financial independence, our financial mastery, right? So as Tony Robbins would say, the way we communicate with others and with ourselves ultimately determines the quality of our life. Goes back to that whole saying that relationship is life's bottom line. And the way we relate with people is by communicating, right? By communicating. Obviously, just a very small percentage, I believe that's 15% of communication is verbal, right? But we do get to communicate with people, right? And the way we're able to do that, right, it determines the quality of our life. Obviously, we're not just communicating with people. First, we communicate with our own self. We're talking continually to our own self, whether we're beating ourselves down or whether we're affirming ourselves. That determines what is already here. And whatever is going on here, whether we're winning or not, determines the way we relate with others, right? If we win the battle on the inside of us in communicating with our own self, then we're able to win the battle. We're set to win the battle relating with other people. But if we lose the battle communicating with ourselves, then there's no way we're going to win a battle communicating with other people, because we're just going to be rubbing on other people the defeat that is already on the inside, right? And that's that word we talked about a few weeks ago, talking about a sense of self, right? Our ability to win a battle within here determines whether we're strong, whether we have a strong sense of self or a weak sense of self, right? And that strength is what determines whether we win or lose when we relate with other people, right? So we need to be conscious of the communication we have with ourselves, right? That we come with we know ourselves, right? And we're talking more about that, is being aware of ourselves and accepting ourselves, knowing our strengths, our weaknesses, right? And working on our strength and knowing how to handle our weaknesses, right? And that will affect the way we relate with other people, and whether we become financially healthy, financially empowered, financially independent, right? So money problems, consistently are listed about one of the main reasons in couples getting divorced, right? About 22% in the US is what the statistics says. Most divorce due to 22% of divorce in the US are due to money issues, right? And so you can imagine that that's about a quarter of divorce cases. So our ability to relate to money then is important if we are to safeguard marriages, if we are to safeguard relationships, right? Uh, it's common conflicts that arise that result in such issues. The way people handle debt, obviously debt goes to credit card, all of that stuff, spending habits, being open with the money that each one has or their earning ability, and also the way money is used as a form of control, right? Whether the money is used to bring each other together, or to push each other apart, or to become a lord over your partner, So all of those results is into 22% of divorce cases by statistics in the U.S. It's obviously at the root of this is like we said earlier on, is whether you're winning the battle within yourself or not, which comes from all the influences we've been talking about so far, being your upbringing, your origin, your family, your community, your society. All of that determines the money imprint that you have, or your money norm, your money culture. And that comes to bear when you're relating with someone else, right? If you're not able to understand yourself, then you're not able to relate right? So if you understand your money story, then it's easy to communicate that to someone else. And it's easy because you understand yourself, then you know the basis of understanding your partner, then you know how to relate better, right? But if you don't know yourself, then it's difficult to know someone else. Then it's difficult to know what the communication lines should be, what the priorities should be. Then you're not able to have a common ground, a common goal, a common focus, and that's pretty much what leads to disaster in relationship, where that 22% comes from, right? So our money stories leads to what we expect from each other in what we expect or not expect in a relationship, and also those expectations, whether they're reasonable, not reasonable, acceptable, not acceptable, whether those expectations are mutually beneficial, or they're seemingly selfish, or all of those are determined, by our own money imprint, right? So obviously we need to understand ourselves. We need to be aware of where we are, then be able to understand where our partner is and find common grounds, Like we typically would say in every relationship, right? There are three persons in every relationship. There's me, there's you, and there's we. And all three needs to be equally served, right? Without none being looked down on, for you to have a healthy, life-giving marriage or relationship, right? Uh, so this connects in money story or money imprint could lead then to people speaking different money language, right? Where we don't understand ourselves, right? I'm married. I've been married since how old am I married now? Been married since I'm 24 years married, right? Going to 25 next year. So I've had that with my wife. We come from two different money stories, right? I'm a first born, she's a last born, So the way we relate to money, it's not exactly the same, right? So, but we're working towards that. We're working towards that common ground, and that's helped us in our journey, right? So typically, we have to be sincere with ourselves, right? There's be a lot of sincerity that needs to be brought to fore that would help, solve issues where there is a disagreement, as it were, or misalignment in money stories. So it's not something we avoid, we run away from. It's something that we talk about, right? It's not something that we avoid, because avoidance is just going to be negative and can only get worse. right? These are things that needs to be talked about, and resolved, as it were. So Matrica has this model here, which we'll talk about in a few seconds here. Just before I go there, I just want to quote Bob Proctor, right? So in life, like Stephen Covey would say, right, there's being proactive or reactive, right? The positive angle to life is being proactive, like the scripture would say, right? If you see it, a wise man sees trouble from afar and makes the right correction, preparation. A, a, a fool sees trouble but does nothing about it, right? So being proactive, knowing this different possible angles to things helps us to be able to think ahead, right? And make the right adjustment, have a communication, have an understanding with our partner so that we have a working plan. And Matter had two models he's put together, in this line, money relationship models. The left one here is the what she terms a negative circle, and the right one is a positive circle. So let's just run through that model here. Uh, so pretty much we in a negative angle, because of the difference in money story, people tend to want to avoid it. Hey, let's not talk about it, but that only leads to bigger problems, right? A problem you don't solve becomes a monster in the house, right? And it's only going to get more difficult, to solve, because when you avoid it, then you have uncommunicated expectation, right? Not communicating it doesn't take the expectation away. You're expecting the other person to just figure it out, right? But the other person can't read your mind, right? Mind reading is not a prerequisite for marriage, right? Mind reading is not a prerequisite for marriage, right? So if you need something, if you want something, you need to let your partner vote no, and not expect that they will know by some telepathic, process, right? Because you don't tell them, the expectations are not met, there are assumptions, but those assumptions, like we would say, is the lowest level of knowledge, right? Where those assumptions are wrong, because you have not communicated, you have not found out, you have not asked the questions. So that will lead to misunderstanding. Misunderstanding will lead to conflict, which will lead to further avoidance, and the vicious circle that goes on, which spirals into divorce, or breakdown in the relationship. A positive angle to it, like we say, is, hey, understand yourself, be self-aware. What is my money imprint? What is my money story, right? And you're able to discuss this with your partner. This is who I am. This is where I'm coming from. Able to then understand your partner also. This is who my partner is. And then find a common ground, for one another. Find a common ground for you, find a common ground for her, find a common ground for the we, right? Those are the three persons need to be served in the relationship for it to be mutually beneficial, right? Because when you then have a communication, then you can gain perspective on the way forward, right? You have a meaningful connection of all three, right? Me, you, and we. And you can then, that gives you a ground or a matching order, a war plan, to go out there and be financially empowered, right? And it's a circle, because you keep on, as you evolve, right? You get to understand the things that are changing, and the me, you, we, and there's a continual communication of what the changes might be, right? But this is life giving, this is life sucking, right? So that's the basic difference between the two. All right. So, like what Tim Keller would say, like Stephen Covey would teach us, right? Reaction leads to confrontation, anger, disappointment, hurt, right? Which obviously will lead to avoidance, right? But when you gain perspective and understanding, and are conscious or aware of each other's needs, or money stories, money imprints, right? Then you're able to move from confrontation to communication and working together as it were. to gain perspective. So uh, so that moves you from negative assumption to positive understanding, as you all discuss on the issues, right? Obviously, with confrontation, you grow apart, right? With communication, it brings you together, right? And having a strong positive money connection in relationship will propel you forward in your ability to hand, grow, and enjoy together, right? So to affect positive change, we need to first understand what it is that we want to change, and then start from within, right? It's again, like we've all talked about, it's leaving the inside out approach, right? Knowing who I am, and with who I am, going to the marketplace, right? To as it were, uh, engage with who I am, right? Who am I? My strengths, my weaknesses, right? My vision, my dreams, right? And I'm able to engage as myself. All right. And we're able to do that also with one another. All right. I'm going to stop here. I don't have questions to treat. So that's just a basic part of chapter 13. Next week, we'll dig into it as we talk about how relationship affects our earning money. So other than that, I'm just going to shut down right here. All right. Do have a great week. Have a great month of August. See you next Sunday, God willing. God bless you. Enjoy.